I'd like to welcome all of you to this fall general faculty meeting. I'm Chancellor Alexander Cartwright, and I hereby officially open the meeting. You will be hearing more from me a little later, and we'll have plenty of time for your questions, but our first order of business will be a report from the faculty. It is my pleasure at this time to introduce the Chair of the Faculty Council, Dr. Bill Wiebold, Professor of Plant Sciences, to bring the report from the faculty. Bill?
Wow, it's quiet out there. I'm not used to that. I wish I had 3 wishes. If I had 3 wishes, what I would wish for is, 1, that I'd be here today talking to you on how to increase yields in a soybean field. I'd be much more comfortable doing that. The second one, I don't want to embarrass Ben, but I really wish that he wasn't my immediate predecessor. Many of you have sat in this room for his presentation like this, and they're awesome. And so we will try to do our best. And then the third wish is that our football team has mercy on the University of Kentucky and only beats them by 3 touchdowns. Those are my wishes. So I want to talk to you about a topic that's dear to me, and it may not seem like it belongs in this kind of conversation about faculty, but I will attempt to tie that all together. But the theme today, the word today is gratitude. And Miss Beatty has a conversation here, a little bit of a saying about gratitude. It sure makes some sense, what she's saying. It's important in my life and important, I'm sure, in a lot of people's lives. But I want to talk about a special type of gratitude. I want to talk about a gratitude about the people that went in front of us here at the university. And to do that, I want to bring in the first of my 3 topics that I warned you about, is Isaac Newton. He's one of my favorite scientists. Anybody from engineering in here? Yeah. Oh, sure, of course, the dean's here. Well, of course. I started school as a major in aerospace engineering. Calculus made me a plant scientist. So I owe a lot to Mr. Newton. But he had a saying that I just love. If I have seen further, it is because I stood on the shoulders of giants. We all have those giants, and I want to talk just a little bit today about those in my life. Maybe you can think about examples in your life as well. So, when I'm talking about giants, I'm not talking about family. So who knows where this house is? Many of you have seen this house. I'm sorry? Independence? No, but think of me, just remember that I'm an Aggie, and I'm from Iowa. Field of Dreams, you bet. So this is Mom and Dad sitting on the porch swing on the set or the farm that was used for Field of Dreams. So obviously they're extremely important to me, as your family is to you. But I want to talk about people that led the way for us in our professional life. And so these are my giants, 3 of my giants. This is my undergraduate advisor, my master's advisor, and my PhD advisor. Two of them are now in the great soybean field in the sky, I guess. But they had a tremendous impact on me, an impact that they didn't think or didn't even know that they did. But I graduated with my BS in 1971. How many years ago is that? That's what, 15 or 20 years ago? And so all of this time, Detroit Green has lived in my head. He was the first agronomist that I met when I switched from engineering into agronomy. He hired me as an undergraduate student. I was on work study. We had hours and hours of time together in his office, in the seed lab, in the field. Extremely fortunate. I can't believe that I was so fortunate to have that person. And of course, the master's degree person, Dick Scheibels, he's the one that taught me how to write. I still remember when I turned in my literature review, and he said, his comment back to me is, I don't normally make very many changes in a student's literature review, but in your case, I needed a lot of help. And now when I work with my students, I can't edit their thesis or their dissertation without thinking about what Dick Scheibels was to me. Then Doyle Ashley I was at the University of Georgia for my PhD. We'll talk a little bit about how that was pretty traumatic, moving from Iowa to Georgia. I'd not really been out of the state hardly before, and he welcomed me and actually loaned me money to be able to pay my first fees. Pretty amazing, isn't it? I need to get that paid back here shortly. But those are three of my giants, and I'm sure you have those giants in your lives as well, people that touch you and are with you, even though they're not present, but with you as you move through the things that you do in your lives. So these are some other giants. These are people, I limited to just 7. I wanted to get these names on the screen. These are people that mean a lot to this university. They mean a lot to all of the people that are part of this community. You can kind of read through there, and we'll just kind of pause a little bit, but you can see when the first woman student was accepted here. You can see 2 individuals, Lloyd Gaines and Lucille Bluford, that went to court so they could be students here at the University of Missouri. They weren't necessarily completely successful. Neither one of them became a student here, but they paved the way for many other students. And but look through the whole list there. When the first student was actually admitted, Gus was one of, I think, 7 or 8 students that were admitted at that same time. The first athlete, black athlete that has scholarship, the first faculty member that was hired here, the black faculty member. Look at the time between when the first student came and when the first faculty member came, the first woman chancellor, and the first Latino president. And there's many other ones. There's a great website on the MU, or there's a great, with a long list of these kinds of things that occurred here at the university. And again, these are all giants in our lives. And I brought in this saying, Magic Johnson, maybe you heard of him. He was pretty good on the basketball court. But what he's talking about is being a role model in the community. And I think if we can think about being role models in whatever we do, whether it's in our classroom, in our laboratory, in our churches, when we shop at Hy-Vee, whatever we do, if Magic Johnson can be proud of that, we can be proud of that as well. And so I ask you to be somebody's giant and think about what we've talked about today. So let's move on just a little bit to present day. Here's a list of individuals. What do they have in common? They ain't been here very long. Some of them are new to a role. Some of them are interim. Some of them have gained extra roles. I put kind of by the provost because she's been here for a little while. So you've got a list of administrators there that are new to this university. The second column are all the new deans that are new to our university. Lots of new people. Lots of reason for optimism, and far be it from me to give any of these people any advice. You know I would never do that. But I did find some advice from Donald Rumsfeld. Now, I don't quote Mr. Rumsfeld very often. Some of you have been watching the Vietnam War series on PBS. But I think this saying has something for us to remember. Because whoever you replaced, not everybody was loved, but you can learn something by what each one of those did, either when they were here briefly or for a long time. And I like that last sentence. It says, try to make original mistakes rather than needlessly repeating theirs. And I think that's words to live by for our administrators. Now, I would never point out your mistakes, but think about this as you move through and stay here for 30 or 40 years. These are the chairs of faculty council. I've served with a number of those, actually, 5 or 6 of them on faculty council. They surely have led the way. There's some people in there, some of you know them from your disciplines, people that I would list as giants, people that have had a huge effect on the university. I know I owe a lot to those individuals, and probably you do too. I want to single out 2 of those, though, my 2 most recent predecessors. And so here's Craig Roberts. I don't really know quite what to say about Craig. This is the plant that he works with. This is tall fescue. I don't think there's another person at this university that has had the impact that he has had on the profitability of the cattle industry, how they're fed, how they're maintained. I don't think there's another person that has that kind of impact. He clearly is a giant to me. He's a great scientist. Not only that, he's a great extension specialist and a good friend. And so I value very much. The thing that I can't duplicate is who among us could weave the name Barney Fife into a presentation like this? He did. Some of you may have been here for that, and I will remember that for a long time. And then my most immediate predecessor already mentioned his name and told you how insecure I am around him. Again, a great teacher, a great lawyer, a great person. This list on the right is from the website that he has. Yeah, I agree. I thought it was interesting to have faculty governance and hearsay put together. I thought that was pretty unique. But I wanted to just spend just a little extra time because he, and I think I, are examples of what a great university we have. His father was president of George Washington University. My grandfather made my father quit school in 8th grade and get a job to try to save the farm from the Depression. Didn't work, lost the farm anyhow. Ben lived for much of his life, some of his life at least, on the East Coast. I lived on a little farm in East Central Iowa. I was 21 before I went to a restaurant where they asked you how you want your meat cooked. I asked for well done. I now know where briquettes come from. I was 12 before I had running water in the house. Ben went to school in Limerick in Ireland. I was married, 23, before I was 250 miles or so from home. So we're very different. There's no doubt that we are different. But this university brings us together. We have opportunities to talk about faculty governance. We have opportunities to talk about and shape the future of this university. We have opportunities to discuss things over a glass of wine. Universities are pretty amazing that bring people like that. And it still is being done. Now I'm a little bit over the hill, I suppose, but there's many students here that are they're first generation students at college. And so this getting together, and regardless of what our backgrounds are, and having a chance to talk and to communicate and to impact the university together is pretty awesome. And so I will be indebted to this university for the next few years, at least as long as I work here. All right, so this is faculty council. I wanted to make sure that everybody saw their names. These are the colleges that they represent. Both Craig and Ben were big believers and taught me a lot about faculty governance and how important faculty governance is. And you can't just talk about it, you got to do it. And the people who are on this board do it. And I'm indebted to all of them in terms of the work that they're going to be doing this academic year. These are some of the issues that are going to be at least studied, looked at, worked on as we go through the academic year. Kind of look through those. Those are the kind of things that are in your lives, right? What? Did I forget to put salary on there? The provost and the chancellor and Rhonda and I have already had a beginning discussion about things have gotten a little bit too far out of balance. And it's one thing to say that faculty salaries are a priority. It's another thing to make them a priority and make sure that we do that. And I have full confidence that they will, if they can find a way, they're going to get it done. And I feel very, very confident about that. So I've got some numbers here that I had to check twice because, again, it's related to faculty governance, but it surprised the heck out of me. If you look at the standing committees, and we have 34 of these things, and you add up the number of people that are on it, 259 faculty members. Now that's just those standing committees. It doesn't include all the search committees. It doesn't include all the things that you do in the college. It doesn't include the things that you do in your departments. 67 staff members, 121 undergraduate and graduate students. I'm not quite sure I know exactly what to say here, but it's an illustration that we're willing to be partners in trying to figure out how best to move this university forward. We are partners in that, and we work hard, and we offer lots of skills. I'm going to put a number up here. This is the remuneration that those people get. And I think that's important, that when we think about, when we're chair of a committee and we complain, man, I can't get somebody to get to that meeting, or, think of all those things. All those people are serving without any remuneration, at least in most cases. And so they are offering their time and their talents. All right. I know I got to get, I'm sorry I've taken far too much of the Chancellor's time. I want to just a couple more slides, focus on teaching. I don't have a teaching appointment, but I think I'm a teacher. And I use this decagram to kind of illustrate the multifaceted thing that teaching really is. Sure, it's in the classroom. Sure, it's online. When you mentor a graduate student, that's teaching, right? When you mentor a fellow professor, an assistant professor, that's teaching. When you have a conversation with your cousin and try to explain that MU is a great place to come and is safe, that's teaching. If you give a talk to the Rotary Club, that's teaching. When Craig and I go out to the field and try to find out what happened to the plants that are in that field, that's teaching. When my staff pulls onto a farmer's field with a little combine and starts to harvest the variety testing plots and has a chance to talk to that farmer, that's teaching. When there's a juried art show, when someone writes a novel, think of all those things. Teaching is what we do. We are teachers. We are all teachers. And we can be proud, I think, of that word. I brought this from Carl Jung. I like this saying. It talks about the humanness of teaching. Lots of things enter into teaching, right? The computer screen, the whiteboard, the blackboard, the seats that they sit in, the curriculum that's developed around those courses. But it's the humans that make the difference. When you think back of your college days, I started out with a slide rule. I don't say, my God, I had a great slide rule. But I had a great set of teachers, right? The humanness of that. And that's what I think we can take from this, is that, sure, we need all that technology we can get, but humans are what makes this university. And it's humans working with humans. And that's a relationship that will go on forever. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize to the Chancellor. I've taken far much more time, but I got to get the cork dork in here, since I promised that. So Bianca was a food reporter, decided to become a sommelier, studied hard, over and over and over again, learned how to taste. Sounds kind of odd. Learned how to taste. Learned about all the wine regions in the world. And I'm not doing it, there's about 400 pages of text, and so you need to read that sometime. But all the things that she went through, and when she finally passed her exam, she became part of an experiment, research project, and they stuck her into an MRI machine, and they had a little tube, and they would feed her different kinds of wine or water or juice or whatever. And then they would see how the brain would light up. And they did this with novices as well. And so her brain lit up totally different. Because she was educated, changes happened in that brain. It worked differently. And so what I took from that book is that not only does a university like us, not only do we change people's lives, but we change people. We have a heck of an effect on those people. And then one last slide, because I got to get Bruce into this. Who's been to a Bruce Springsteen concert? Awesome. Did he play Badlands? Oh, man. If you have not heard that, you've got to hear that. But Bruce has a number of songs that are, I guess I wouldn't call them depressing but they're about people on hard times, wanting to do better. And our university, our campus has just come through some hard times. And we're still thinking about it. We're still taking surveys. We're still talking about the surveys, and we're going to talk about them today yet. And so we're still feeling this. When Craig and I go out, do a field call, 9 times out of 10, they're going to bring it up. It's just, when you go home for Christmas and you're meeting with your uncles and aunts, I'm guaranteeing you that they talk about it, right? And so it's easy to get down, but there's a line in this song that I want you to remember. And it says, "It ain't no sin to be glad you're alive. It ain't no sin to be glad that you're a part of the University of Missouri." We can be proud of that. We don't have to look at the floor when someone says we work at the University of Missouri. We can, in fact, be proud of it for all the things that we just went through today. And so I think with that, we will let the real speaker come up and talk. So thank you so much. I'm supposed to introduce you, aren't I? And he's really very much better at doing this than I. I would just say 2 things. I haven't been around him a lot, but he had an effect on me already. One time, he was talking to the new faculty. And much of what I did here today, I stole from him. Because he basically told them, be that person. Be that person that will be a role model that affects those people alive. And then the other one, and I don't do it very much justice, but it was in a meeting, and we were talking about another university in this state that thinks they're the destination place for undergraduates. And, some of us were kind of chirping and chirping, and he said, and I won't say this exactly correct, but we are Mizzou. We don't have to pretend that we're great. We don't have to rub it into anybody. We are Mizzou. And I thought that's pretty cool. After only 4 weeks here or 5 weeks here, he knew what it meant to be Mizzou. So I present you one of my giants, the giant Chancellor Cartwright.
Well, Bill, I have to admit that I was sitting down there thinking, now how in the world am I going to follow this? I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think it was there were so many pieces to what you talked about that I completely agree with. And I do believe that we need to focus on why we're here and be proud of why we're here. We have a great institution, and we should make sure everybody is aware of who we are and why we're here. If I can get this to not slide, I'll put it down here. But thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for having me here. And I'm looking for the There it is. It has been now a couple months that I've been here, and every day I feel that I learn more and more about this great institution and why we should feel quite good about where we are. It is, I went through, we had the solar eclipse, a great experience with all the students. I went through the Tiger Walk and, walked through there. We've had some rough times. We've had to deal with 3 different hurricanes that affected a number of our students. And in each of those, I've seen a resiliency in the people that are here and making sure that we are concerned about our fellow students and faculty and staff and all of the people who are connected, alumni that are connected to this institution. And that is what Mizzou is about. Went to the state fair, saw again what people feel about Mizzou, and to see the connection, all of the things we do in our in Kaffner and Extension and all of the units that actually are connected so well with everybody that's in this state. We've been to 4 football games, 2 Board of Curators meetings. There's the climate survey that we had to roll out and make sure that we had discussions around what's in there. And I agree completely with Bill that what's interesting about this institution is we're willing to have those types of conversations. We're willing to talk about that, and we should be proud of that. We should be proud of the fact that we can have that. And this is in a time where if you look at public higher education in general, we're not alone. It's changing rapidly. Budgets are being curtailed. There are lots of different org structures at institutions, funding models, infrastructure, how people are thinking about the processes and systems within our university and what we should be doing. And in fact, everything is being scrutinized in some way or another. And we know that the pace of all of that is painful because we'd like to not have to be dealing with all of that. But this is the reality of where we are today in higher education. And I think we're going to eventually come out of this, but it's going to take us some time for all of this to work its way through and for us to come out on the other side of all of this turmoil in many ways. And of course, we have lots of issues here at Mizzou that Bill talked about, right? Some of the things about how we might be seen out there and what people think about Mizzou. And from my time here, I can tell you that much of that perception, much of what's out there is a misconception. It's not true. It's not the Mizzou that I know. It's not the Mizzou that I've recognized by being here over this period of time. And when I talk to students, what I find fascinating is I'm getting pretty close to, almost unanimous that you ask a student, why did you come here? And they tell me the same thing. I visited and I fell in love, right? It's such a fabulous institution. You have to have people come here to see what it is. And so anybody, I welcome anybody to come and visit this institution and see what you walk away with when you talk to everybody here. And this is at a time where we have low morale generally, right? We have some challenges that we need to be dealing with. Staff and faculty morale is at a low point, partly because of a lot of the things that are happening in the institution, but also the pressure from the outside and what people are thinking about us as an institution. And we need to be aware of that, and we need to be then thinking about what we're going to do. I don't think Bill saw this one before. We did the climate survey, and 60% of those talked about seriously considering leaving Mizzou and our faculty. And if you look at those and then you ask that 60%, what were the top reasons? These are the top reasons here why people have considered leaving Mizzou. And the top one is, of course, salary. And then there's a bunch of others that we need to be thinking about. And we need to recognize that this is an issue that we have to deal with. And it's one that we need to be thinking about. How do we reward our faculty for the great work that they're doing, making sure that it's acknowledged, all of the things that you do for us. We're thinking about, of course, planning process and our finances. We're during a time where we're cutting, and Bill said this very well, we really have a lot of challenges financially that we're trying to deal with, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we figure out a way to reward you for your great work. So that's something that we're going to be working with, and the next few months are going to be critical in how we arrive at that ultimate plan. And we want to make sure that, you know, we continue to think of what are the new things that we're going to be doing, how are we going to be doing them differently, more efficiently, so that we can then invest our scarce dollars where we think they should be invested. But we also want to address all of these other concerns too. And the way we're going to do that is we've actually created a group of 5 leaders who are going to be thinking about these different areas. And I'm going to walk you through what we're going to try to do. Garnet Stokes is going to be the leader for the faculty group. She's our provost, of course. You all know her. She's been here the longest of a lot of us. So, she will help us with really identifying what are those things that we can address in the near term over, say, the next year, that the 3 to 5 things that we think we can do that will help with faculty, help with the issues that you saw on the previous slide. We're going to do the same thing with staff, and Patty, who's here, will lead that. And we're also going to do the same thing with students, and Jeff Salinga is going to lead that. Those people will really be working with the constituents groups and trying to identify what are those 3 to 5 things that we can put out there publicly on our website that everybody knows what we're trying to do and what we're committed to doing, and we're going to try to accomplish in the next year. And we will then give time updates, and here's where we are on all of these different strategies and what we're doing. Across all of this, of course, is the fact that we need to be thinking about our activities in inclusion and respect, and that includes us having Kevin McDonald and his team involved in much of the activity that's happening in all of these groups. So we're going to be working on that, working together. I've asked Marty Otting, my chief of staff, Marty's down here, to serve as my representative on this group, but all of these groups will ultimately be reporting to me in terms of what we're going to be doing, and I want to work with everybody to try and figure out what are those next steps, what are we going to be doing, and really drive what are those 3 to 5 things in each one of those, and then institutionally, what are those things we want to do to implement change. At the same time that's going on, we have some great people, great leaders here, Cooper Drury and Matthew Martins. I thought I saw Cooper is here. They're right next to each other. That's easy, thank you. I was going to look for the other one. I was like, oh, they're right next to each other. Good. Who are leading this activity. And what you see are you know, we're looking at academic program analysis, enhancement, and opportunities. And it's really, they're charged with looking at the analysis of all of our academic programs across the entire institution and to make recommendations on future investment, potential consolidations, and in some cases, even program discontinuation. And we try to make this a representative group. It has people from across all of the campuses, the whole campus. It's data-driven. We're trying to think about, you know, what are the roles of everybody involved, and really bringing those together and getting as much input as we can so that we can ultimately think about what's the right thing to do in this case. They've already completed phase 1, which is really identifying the principles, guidelines, metrics, and data sources for what they're going to be doing. And now they're working on phase 2, which is getting the feedback from a number of groups, including faculty council and also by college. And the hope is that, and I have real faith that they will deliver on this, is that they'll deliver that report no later than January 15th of 2018. And I really do want to thank them for the hard work on this, because I know it's a lot of hard work and something that we need to be doing collectively. So I thank all of you for participating in that and giving us as much input as we can in that. So if you think about the narrative that's out there, and I'm glad Bill sort of set this up for me, it's one where the narrative is that maybe, you know, this is not a place you want to come, that there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of problems, there's, you know, we even get questions sometimes on the tours that talk about, you've done a great job rebuilding the place when there was no damage done to the place, but this is the type of questions we get. So you need to be aware of that, and that people have this misconception of what actually occurred in 2015. And I want you to just make sure that it's clear to people what actually happened at this institution. We have challenges like society. We have things we need to be addressing, and we are working on them. We've done a lot of things there, and I think we need to do more, but we've done a lot of things there. We have concerns generally that maybe we're not an institution that is really caring about our public and not reflective of what their needs are. And I think that we need to clarify that. And it really is fascinating to me that there's this view out there, because when you come here, it is not that at all, right? It is a place where we're trying to become better at everything that we do. We have dedicated faculty, we have dedicated staff, students who are just exceptional, people who care deeply about this organization and want the best thing for this organization. And I think sometimes people conflate when you want the best thing for an organization with the fact that you may not like the organization, but that's not the case. Is that, within your family, you will always try to help your own family members to get better, right? And you never think anything of that when you're in your family and you're talking to each other. That's what you should be doing. And that's what we do as an institution. We will talk about issues and we'll address them, and we'll try to figure out the best way to get to the place that is best for everybody involved. That's what we do. And I think that that's appropriate, that we would be willing to do that. And I want to make it clear that, in my time here, it is clear to me that we're an institution that cares deeply about everything that we do. We care deeply about education, knowledge, welfare of people, and especially our students. And I find it, Bill's comments about standing on the shoulders of giants is so appropriate, because when he said that, I was able to very quickly write down a list of 7 or 8 people that I could point to that had incredible impact on my life. And they may not even realize how big of an impact they had, right? And that means that it's not that it's someone trying to do it in particular. It is someone who you recognized in your past just did the right thing at the right time, said the right thing at the right time. That might have been a very short interaction with that individual, but it was something that impacted you forever. The example that I give is, I was going to be an accountant. I had been almost 2 years into an accountancy degree, and the plant, the owner of the factory that I was working at just called me into his office, and he said, "Why aren't you considering engineering?" That was a really short conversation. I didn't know what engineering was, by the way, so I had to go away and really do a little bit of work and figure out what is this engineering thing, and why would he think that I would want to do it? And I did naively probably identify it immediately with trains, but eventually I figured out different. But it just showed that I didn't even know what the possibilities were, but someone saw it and someone said it to me, which made me then think about what I should be doing, and really then take a chance and go and talk to people in the engineering school to see if I could get into there. And it's amazing that so many things that you experience impact how you think about life and what you want to do. And I can tell you that I want every student to have that type of opportunity, that they should be able to pursue things that are a great match to them, that they want to be, whatever they want to be, that they have those opportunities and that they pursue their passions. I would never have realized how much I loved math and science if someone hadn't said that to me and made me think about going into that. And I still am so thankful for that one conversation, to think that someone could go from not having, had any calculus or trigonometry or anything, and in a matter of years, to then be taking mathematical methods for physics and quantum physics. That's a pretty big change in a matter of just a few years. And I see that as being the opportunity that everybody can have. And this is our core values here. is that we really do believe in service to our community and what we want to do and how we want to help this state and the world. We believe in discovery, right? We really do. We think about what are the next things we should be doing? How do we as a collective impact society? I'm excellence in all that we do. And I think that's what's really important. And that's also what Bill said, even though he didn't use the word excellence, but he said it because he talked about that it's every time that we're out there, we're teaching, right? We go out, we talk to the public, we talk to our family. We're always teaching. We're always talking about this institution. We need people to think about what we're doing and why it is important, why education is important. And I really think I'm going to steal the one slide about the person with the brain scan and how it changed, because that is important, because we do talk about changing lives, but we apparently also change people in general. And that's actually a good thing, because it makes you connect. And it's so exciting to have that opportunity to connect with so many people in so many ways. And of course, we want to be respectful, and we want to have the debates that are necessary in a higher education institution. That is what we should be doing. Those are all good things that we do, and things that we do exceptionally well. Of course, because we're the University of Missouri, right? We are an AAU institution, land-grant institution, Research One institution, an institution that is comprehensive, that has so many disciplines that we can really think about tackling problems that not many institutions can think about. And I believe that we're in a transformative era. I started off by talking about the changes in higher education and what I think is happening in higher education and how that's affecting us. And the key to that is that we should not look at that as a challenge, but rather as an opportunity. The opportunity is that we become the future land-grant institution. We become that leading institution in the country. We become the institution that everybody looks at and says, that's the way you should do it. Because that is what is going to change society, right? And that means we have a lot of things we need to be thinking about doing. We need a new land grant. And I actually think we do need this. I think we need to be thinking about what that means, what is our role in society. And I'll give you a little bit of what I see as our role is that we need to be thinking about innovation. How do we help people to be more innovative? And when I talk about innovation, it needs to become a core value of this institution. It needs to be every day that we are here, we're thinking about what we're doing. Not just you as faculty. Of course, faculty, incredibly innovative, right? That's how you got here. You did a lot of interesting things. But we need our students to embrace that innovation, and we need to create environments where they are free to be innovative and that they can think about new ways of doing things. And we need our staff to be empowered to be innovative. There's many times where people are doing things in our offices, and they do them because sometimes they just feel that we want them doing them, right? But they could probably go home, they probably do go home, and they go, I don't know why I was doing that way today, right? That didn't make any sense, but that's kind of the way we do it, right? Well, that's not what we want. We want everybody at this institution to feel that we all want to improve and that they are a source of that innovation in this institution and that they will say, we should change that, right? I don't think anybody's looked at that report for 20 years, right? Let's change that. Let's do something different. I don't think we have much of that. That's an exaggeration. But if we had things that we're doing that we feel aren't particularly beneficial to our students and our staff and our faculty, we should rethink how we're doing them. And I want people to feel empowered to do that. That's what's important, because once we start believing that as an institution, then we can really become this resource for answering the world's grand challenges. That's our goal. That is what we are here for. We are here because we have the intellectual capability to think about problems that not many people in the world can think about. We have a collection of exceptionally gifted faculty, students, staff, who can help us with thinking about problems that society is struggling with, right? We can think about, and you already do this. You do this in pieces all over the place. I mean, the things you do in drug-resistant ag and all of those things that are happening. Drought-resistant, not drug-resistant. That'd be interesting, too. Maybe that's something new. That's a new innovation. I'll go home and think about what that could actually be. See, Even a mistake like that, you should take that and think about, maybe that could actually be a really good idea. I think I can see Bill taking some notes down. He could come up with something there. But there are so many opportunities that if we embrace that innovation and embrace the fact that we're going to make mistakes and we're going to have our errors along the way, that's part of how you become really exceptional at anything you're doing. And I think that we can then address those grand challenges, because it's through that way that we become not just the University of Missouri, but we become the University for Missouri. I use Missouri because it's a place you can see. But in fact, what we really want to be is we want to be the university for society, right? We impact society. Our work impacts society. We should be thinking about how we can work collectively and use all of the talents from around the institution and work on those problems. It means also, of course, that we want those people who, there are some of us who want to work in our one area and do our one thing. That's good. We need those people who are doing all that depth, but there are ways then to leverage that knowledge to solve other problems. And we need to be cognizant that means something different about how we work and evaluate people in this institution. So I want you to think about that. How do we think globally? What are our challenges globally, and how would we structure to make sure we can address global challenges and really show what Missouri can do, what we can do? That, of course, if you think about that, if we get all of that right, then we can do all of these things, right? We can get a culture where all of you can thrive, our alumni included, and that we have excellence in education, research, and engagement. And that we identify, we have that strong identity that this is the flagship institution, integral to the entire system. We are the flagship. We have MU Health, we have MU Extension Services, which reach this entire state, and we should be using those to leverage and really disseminate the knowledge base that we have at this great institution. And we want to ensure that our students have the highest quality student experiences and successes. And that means exposing them to that. There is something special about our students being at an institution like Mizzou. There are opportunities they get here that they don't get at many institutions. And that opportunity to work directly with you in research, scholarly activities, whatever it is you're doing, artistic expression, that is what will empower them for their whole lives. That opportunity to think differently and to try things that they never thought they could actually accomplish with your mentorship is what will allow them to be successful. And in fact, we know from all of the high-impact practices that connection to a faculty member or a mentor at the institution is the number one reason that we can improve retention rates and graduation rates. That sense of belonging and connection to someone else in the institution. I believe that with your help, we can face all of this together and we can do exceptional things. And it will be only with your contributions that we achieve them. So thank you so much, and I'd be happy to take any questions you may have. Thanks. And please use the mics if you have questions. Questions? Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Can you go back to towards the beginning of your slideshow and show us again
Yeah.
right there, yeah. So I don't in any way want you to take the red box out around salary there. But as I
That was
looked-
Bill's request. So.
I suspect it was. Thank you, Bill. I think we all monitor, how our salaries compare to the national median. But I'm looking at the rest of the list here, and to me, much of this is climate. So we have a specific item there, campus climate was not welcoming, but also a lack of sense of belonging, tension with supervisor managers, just feeling like you're overworked and underappreciated. And so I think your next slide might have been the one where we were talking about the
Yes.
working groups
Yes.
to address that. I think that is huge. I'm not a person in organizational behavior. That's not my research area. But as I understand it, that those climate issues actually matter a lot more than salary does. That is, people will stay places where they feel happy and appreciated, even if it's a lower salary. So I think that's huge. It's really huge. And what I'd like to know is, what is the plan for these working groups? How is this going to be addressed? Because I think it needs to be done quickly, that there is a major issue. I just had someone in my office this afternoon in tears, who is a very strong contributor to this university, but just felt like she was not supported by her administrator, who didn't listen to her or help her or give her the support she needed. She felt overworked, and she was telling me she was ready to quit. So how do we help that?
What was your name?
Christy Bergen, and I'm in the College of Education. I'm NTT research faculty.
Thank you, Christy. So we didn't say exactly which topics they would be looking at, but you are absolutely right in that we want these groups to each be thinking about the climate and what we can do to improve the climate, right? And in fact, I would say that the 3 to 5 things that need to come out of that is, I think we know the salary is already there, right? So the 3 to 5 that come out should be really thinking more about the things that you brought up. How do we address the climate? And I would agree with that, because we already know the salary. We have to put that as a priority overall for the institution, how we're going to address that. So I would encourage that the groups get together, the faculty, and think about, if we looked at that list, and I'm glad you said that. Sorry, it went the wrong way. Here it is. If we look at that list, what are the 3 to 5 things we could do over the next year that start to get at some of these, right? And we don't have an answer to that, because I think it's going to be different for each of the groups, right? The fact there's going to be some that are common, by the way, and we're going to look for those too and see if we can find them across groups, that there are some common things we could be doing. But I also think there's going to be some differences in how we work with each of the groups. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the faculty, the students, and the staff come up with in this process. And your second part, which I also agree with, is this has to happen quickly. Right? And so we have a lot of things happening, but we want to be able to, I don't know if we put a deadline on this, but we do want to post something soon that says, here's the 3 to 5 areas that we're going to be working on for the next year. Right? So I would say we can't have it go into next year and not have those 3 to 5. And I mean the next calendar year. Right? It has to happen this fall, that we identify the 3 to 5 things we're going to be working on collectively over the next 12 months. So I agree, it has to happen pretty quickly. But there's a lot of other things, too, that I know many of you are involved in. And thank you, Bill, for putting up the list of all of the committees and all the things, because we know we're also asking you, many of you, to be involved in a lot of other topics that we're covering, too, and trying to address this fall. But this one has to be one of our highest priorities in terms of what we're doing for the climate. So thank you. Any other questions? Yes, hi.
Hello, good afternoon. So a number of us were disturbed by the news of the new company that has just been contracted to work on our brand. In reading the news reports, we see that $1.3 million has been budgeted for that, and it disturbed us because, one, we are not sure what's wrong with our brand. We've just heard the last 45 minutes talking about how wonderful we are, how proud we are of Mizzou.
Mm-hmm.
Those of us who are here, who have stayed here, our students who have come here,
Absolutely.
our retention rate is wonderful.
Yes.
Think that it's wonderful. So we want to hear from you, and I walked in a couple of minutes late, so maybe this was handled already by the chair of the faculty council, or the president. I'm not sure what you are, Bill. President. But if you could talk a little bit about that, the rationale behind doing this now, and also why you chose that company, and what the process will be.
So if if you were to, I agree with all of the things you said about this institution, but if you're not here, you don't know that. When I was looking at this job, all the language, all the things that I read, all the things that I heard external of Missouri were about all of the, well, I'll just say it, all the bad things that were happening here, right? And how this is not a place you might want to go to. That's just not an accurate reflection of this institution. But that is the perception that some have out there. And what we need to do, the reason we chose 160 over 90 is because they are really good storytellers. They're an exceptional, very well-known institution that has worked with many, many institutions, universities across the country who had some challenging times or needed to be able to make sure that everybody understood the story about what the institution is truly about, right? And we need them to help us. They're not making up a brand. We're not changing our brand. When we talk about what they're doing, they are going to tell the stories that reflect who we are. They're going to tell the stories you just said. They're going to talk about the exceptional students that are here and the fact that our retention rates are, this past year was the second highest we've ever had, right? People come here and they stay here. People who visit this campus on admissions tours disproportionately will select Mizzou to come to Mizzou, right? We need to get them to come here. We need to also have people not just thinking about what's out there, you know, that maybe this negative perception about Mizzou. We need them to understand faculty, potential faculty, right? All of these potential candidates for coming to Mizzou, we need them to understand what Mizzou is. So I agree wholeheartedly with you that we need to really make sure that people understand who Mizzou, what Mizzou is, and why you should come here. And if we don't get that message out there through 160 over 90, then they wouldn't have done their job. That is their job. Their job is to get those stories, to have people understand why this institution is the great institution that it is and why people should be coming here. But we need to understand that we understand that. We are here. And anybody who is at this institution and works in this institution, I know you all understand how special of a place this is. I can tell you that the longer, I said this, one of the first things I said when I came here, the longer I am here, every day reminds me that I absolutely made the right decision. This is one of the best, it's the best institute, one of the best institutions in this country, right? We're up there with everybody, right? And for me, it's the perfect place to be. And we need that story out there. So we had to think about how do we make sure, can we go along the same path and hope that everybody just is, going to help us with that, or do we go proactive? And we've decided to go proactive in being able to tell our own story. But it is critical that it has to be a story that is reflective of who we are. They don't define our brand, we define our brand. And our brand already exists. We just need to know how to tell that story about who we are. Hi.
Peter Valentine from the Philosophy Department. And I just have a small comment. It's actually directed to Faculty Council. And I realize I may be in a minority, but I'm sort of frustrated by the presentations at our general faculty meetings. I really want to focus on problems. What are the concrete problems that were confronting us, get some background, and then we'll have questions. The presentations that are these big general ideas, maybe lots of people like them or find them useful. I don't. So my suggestion, and it's really for Faculty Council, is let's hear about the problems that the Faculty Council is planning on addressing the coming year, and then we can get our teeth into it.
Thank you. So, I think Bill knows this about me. I say this to everybody, is that I'm a big believer in understanding what the problems are, because unless we get them out there, we can't solve them. And we need to be talking about what those challenges are, and we need to be open about that, so I agree. However we do that, Bill and I are going to work together and we'll try to figure out what's the right mechanism for that. today, my presentation, I just wanted you to get a flavor of what I'm thinking. But in the future, I think it would be good for even my presentations of these things to sort of delve deeply into some topics. And we'll work on that, and I'll look for your input on that, and I'd be happy to go down that pathway. I think that's a really good suggestion. Because it's good to get that type of feedback and get ideas of what we should be doing. That's where we're trying to also, that's one of the reasons I wanted to make sure that we went to that model of creating those groups to be thinking about what we're doing in the climate survey, because it's very easy for us to say, okay, you know, the administration and maybe a couple of faculty or someone going to get together and come up. That doesn't work, right? We need sort of some brainstorming. We need some people to get together. We need your bright minds involved so that you could be telling us, here's things that really we could do concretely over the next the next year, these 3 to 5 things we could do to really impact the climate here. So I'd love to be thinking about how do we start addressing the problems and moving on. So thank you, Peter. Other thoughts, questions? Did I wear everybody out? I want to make it clear to you that I really do appreciate everything you do. I still think of myself as a faculty member. I love interacting with students. I really do. I think it's, I had meetings earlier today with some students, and all I need, and I think my staff are starting to realize this, is, you know, to keep me going, all they need to do is maybe give me 1 meeting a day with students. And I could then go until midnight easily. Because that energy that they give me, just to understand what they're thinking and to see the remarkable students we have, you then want to work day and night, because you know the impact you could have on society through really impacting the lives of those students. So I'm just so excited to be here. I look forward to working with all of you. Know that I am very interested in understanding what the challenges are, but also know my philosophy is that never complain about something unless you're willing to do something about it. That was used against me once for a job, because the comment back to me was they asked me to do something and they said, and we know your philosophy is don't complain about something unless you're willing to do something about it, and you've complained plenty enough. So I was stuck. I had to take the job. But that's really what I believe in. I think it's good to have that, conversation around challenges and problems, but we should also be thinking about what are those solutions, and that is really where we'll move forward together as an institution. I think our best days are ahead. I really do. I think we are a tremendous, tremendous institution, one that could be the leader in the nation, and I don't want us to aim for anything less than that. So with you, we can do it, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. Thank you.